I tried a case once where I claimed my client was fired because he filed a workers' compensation claim. I presented such great evidence, so many inferences that showed that was exactly the motivation of the employer, retaliating against him because of his workers' compensation claim. And the jury was not out very long, and they ruled my way, and they gave me every penny I asked for, and I was on top of the world. But then the judge, who came from a county that is very conservative, even though I tried it in a very liberal venue, took away the jury verdict, saying there wasn't enough evidence to support it.
Welcome to the Free Lawyer Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Miles.
Picture this. You're standing in a Baltimore courthouse, facing one of the state's most inflammatory, most successful attorneys in your very first solo jury trial. Your opponent is known for crossing lines, purposely asking inappropriate questions, and intimidating younger lawyers. Throughout the trial, he makes so many inappropriate statements that you're forced to file 7 different motions for mistrial, and none of them are granted. You're outmatched, outgunned, and everyone expects you to fail. But you somehow maintain focus. You persist with your objections and ultimately secure a defense verdict against all odds. That was me 4 decades ago, and that moment taught me something no law school ever could. In this profession, resilience, not just technical skill, determines who thrives and who merely survives. Today, I'm going to share with you why resilience is truly your secret weapon for lasting confidence and career satisfaction. I'm Gary Miles. I've been practicing law for over 40 years, and my passion today is to share with you insights that will help you enjoy your practice more, be more successful, and more fulfilled. And I hope to do that today. If you listen for the next 15 minutes, you will learn how to build the skill of resilience that will help you to maintain your confidence under all circumstances. You know, our confidence really is directly connected to our resilience, our ability to bounce back after setbacks. And that relationship, that resilience, is why some attorneys thrive while others struggle despite similar training and abilities. You know, earlier in my career, I won a whole string of consecutive trucking cases, representing trucking companies, unfavored defendants, nobody likes them, injured plaintiff, and yet I won 12 cases in a row. You would think I would be one of the most supremely confident trial attorneys there was, but I still doubted myself. And what's the message of that? The message is that success alone does not create confidence. Your confidence does not come from your achievements. You think it would. If you won a couple cases in a row, you would think, I'm really good at this. But that's not where your confidence comes from. Those winning streaks, winning those cases, that creates a fragile confidence that's easily shattered when things don't go your way. Resilience, though, builds a confidence that lasts, a confidence that carries you through the ups and downs of what we do as lawyers. You all know we have good days and bad days. We're not going to win every case. We're not going to win every motion. Not every settlement's going to work out how we want. Not every transaction is going to satisfy our client, or we're not going to create the perfect document that makes everybody happy. There are going to be some things that go wrong, some clients that are unsatisfied, some verdicts that don't go our way, some motions that are denied. But true confidence comes from knowing you can handle failure. It doesn't come from avoiding it. Of course, we all want to avoid failure. We all want to be successful. But real lasting confidence does not come from avoiding failure. It's from knowing that when it happens, you can handle it. And what happens when we aren't resilient? Wow, a whole laundry list of bad things. You begin to over-prepare because you're so afraid of losing. You go to great lengths to prepare your case, much beyond what is needed or necessary. You become indecisive in making decisions because you're afraid that you don't want to have that bad result. Your relationships with your clients are not as strong because they sense your lack of confidence. You start avoiding risk because of all things, you don't want to have a case work out wrong. Your career stagnates because you're afraid to take on new challenges or open new doors because you don't know what's on the other side. And most importantly, you lose your fulfillment in the practice of law and you border on burnout. What are three truly transformative benefits of resilience? The first is sustained performance. When you believe in yourself, when you know you can bounce back from setbacks, when you know you can handle whatever comes, you can be effective under pressure consistently. I had that trial in Baltimore City. It just seemed like one thing after another. And every time I turned around, he was opening his mouth with another inappropriate statement. I'd object. The judge would tell the jury to disregard it. I moved for mistrial. He'd deny it. It just seemed like one thing after another. But I didn't let it get me down. I didn't quit. I didn't lose my focus. I stayed resilient. And I've had so many ups and downs during my career. I've had a lot of great verdicts. I tried one late in my career, a simple motor tort. Liability was pretty clear. The other lawyer, the defense lawyer, really didn't fight about liability much. His focus was on damages, which were very questionable. But despite that, there was a defense verdict. Because I learned these tools of resilience, while I was incredibly disappointed and might have kicked myself for about 24 hours, after that I bounced back and I realized this is what happens when you try jury cases. They are very unpredictable. And I've learned to transform setbacks into stepping stones. When you practice resilience, those cases that don't work out well end up being things you can learn from. I tried a case once where I claimed my client was fired because he filed a workers' compensation claim. I presented such great evidence, so many inferences that showed that was exactly the motivation of the employer, retaliating against him because of his workers' compensation claim. And the jury was not out very long, and they ruled my way, and they gave me every penny I asked for, and I was on top of the world. But then the judge, who came from a county that is very conservative, even though I tried it in a very liberal venue, took away the jury verdict, saying there wasn't enough evidence to support it. And I learned from that. I learned of the unpredictability of what can happen. I learned of the need to prepare as well as I can and to give me grace when things don't work out well. Sustained performance, professional growth, and the third benefit is career longevity. I did trial work full-time actively for almost 45 years. And when you are resilient in your career, I can't tell you how many setbacks I had, too many to mention. And they're the ones that stick with you generally, right? They're the ones that you can't let go of. But when you learn to be resilient, you can build a practice that lasts, a practice that will allow you to practice to whatever age you want, into the 60s or whatever, and still enjoy what you do without burning out. So what are the main pillars of legal resilience? The first is maintaining a perspective mastery. That auto tort that I absolutely should have won, where there was a defense verdict, really was so difficult. But I learned that loss did not make me a bad lawyer. That loss did not mean I didn't know what I was doing. That loss did not tear me apart permanently. I learned to frame that setback as a specific and temporary event, simply related to the facts of that case and to that particular jury. What I've learned to do is treat negative thoughts about myself like the claims of opposing counsel. An opposing counsel will make some argument to you about his case and why it's so strong and whatever. And you don't fold, you don't give in to him, you think about it. What's the response to that? What's the evidence on the other side of that? And when you start to beat yourself up about what happened, just treat it like the claim of opposing counsel and see what the contrary evidence is. Yes, I lost that case that honestly I should have won, but I won a lot of cases that I should have lost and got some great results in others. So look at those setbacks as specific to that case, as temporary setbacks, not permanent ones, and not ones that talk about how you are as a lawyer. So that's the first. Get a different perspective about the setback. Look at it as an opportunity to learn and as a temporary setback, but not a permanent one. The second is to develop a protocol for recovery. Recovery from a setback becomes a process rather than an emotional struggle. And it's a three-step process. The first is to acknowledge what happened. What happened? Why did it happen? Don't minimize it. I was crushed by those two examples I gave you earlier of the judge taking away my verdict and of that truly inexplicable defense verdict in an auto tort. I was very, very disappointed. I allowed myself to feel that. But the second step is analysis. What can you learn from it? What lessons can I take from what happened without self-criticism? And in the auto tort, the main lesson I could take is that trying a case is unpredictable. Anything can happen. I have to make sure my clients know that and understand that we walk into the courtroom and there are no guarantees, no matter how you feel about the case and no matter what job I did. I actually did a good job in that case, even though I lost. But that happens when you try a jury case, and that was a lesson. So acknowledge the pain, acknowledge the disappointment of the setback without minimizing it. And then look at what lessons you can get from it without beating yourself up. And then the third step is adaptation. Incorporate those lessons into your future practice. So, for example, the lesson I learned is I have to advise my client better about what the setbacks are that could happen, what the possible jury verdicts could be. And even though they don't seem likely, they're very, very possible. So develop a process for recovering from the setbacks. And the third is develop a team that gives you support. I had an opportunity to try a jury case with my good friend and law school classmate, Erwin Weiss. And it was so refreshing. It was so much fun. We're very different trial lawyers from each other. We made a great team and we got a simply fantastic result. And what I learned from that is how important it is to have relationships with colleagues who can support you and lift you and give you feedback. Erwin and I used to talk on the phone a good bit. I'd bounce a case off of him and he'd run something by me. We gave each other support and feedback. So find colleagues ahead of time who you can build relationships with, who will give you honest, non-judgmental feedback, who are willing to share their own challenges with you openly, who, when you're going through a difficult time, can offer you some perspective, and who can celebrate your successes without being competitive. You can support and encourage each other. And having a team that will support you is so critical when you're going through a downtime. You can call that friend up, that colleague, that trusted acquaintance, and let them know what happened and let them know how disappointed you are. And they can listen to you honestly, give you some encouragement, maybe share some perspective or some thoughts. It really is a big help. So there are three important pillars of legal resilience: maintaining your perspective when something goes backwards, building up a system, a process for recovering, and having a team that supports you and encourages you. So how do we implement strategies to build resilience? Well, I'm going to give you 3 times. The first is before the challenges, how to prevent yourself from really being blown out of the water by an unexpected setback. And here are a couple tips for you. I encourage you to do a 3-month resilience inventory. What does that mean? Honestly assess how you've been doing responding to professional pressures. Where have you been most vulnerable? What things happened that you handled well and what things happened that you didn't? Build that support network I talked about before you need it. Finding colleagues who offer you different perspectives and different strengths. Maintain stress management routines. And I know you've heard about these before, but get good night's sleep, eat well, get some exercise. Take care of yourself. Find a hobby that you enjoy doing. That will help you to manage stress and generally have a good outlook on your practice. and find your purpose in what you do. Find what is fulfilling about your practice. What is it that energizes you and pleases you? Do more of that. And then set some boundaries. Boundaries with your clients so they don't pester you at all times. Get in touch with them by email, respond to their emails, answer their calls, but don't let them run your life because you're their lawyer, but you don't have to be there for them 24/7. And when those challenges happen, when those setbacks occur, during those challenges, how are you going to respond? Have a predetermined strategy or process of response. A couple things that I do is when things really get to me, I practice some deep breathing. I like to do 4 seconds in, hold it for 4 seconds, 4 seconds out, hold that for 4 seconds. Do that for a minute or two. Will really relax you. I remind myself of how focused I am on my client and of how much I prepared for the case. So during those challenges, when you're in court and those unexpected things happen, take some deep breaths, remind yourself of your preparation, and focus strictly on your client and their interests. That will help you to be very functional and perform very well despite the pressure. Then analyze the problem. What is the strategic problem you're faced? Take a step back, assess it accurately, analyze what happened versus what it meant about you and your abilities. In other words, don't make it about you, just analyze what happened. And then know what resources you can call on, whether it's a colleague, a partner, a legal assistant. Research some resource to handle that challenge. And after the challenge is over, after the setback has happened, have a process of recovery. Structure a process of reflecting on what happened without getting stuck in your mind about it. Learn to integrate your lessons into your practice. Incorporate those insights, what you learned from what happened, into your ongoing practice systematically. I like keeping a list of what I've learned from each matter. And then I can use it to review and make sure I really am incorporating that in what I do. Every one of those setbacks, every one of those hurdles, there are lessons for us. The message isn't we're a bad lawyer. The message isn't we're a failure. The message isn't we don't know how to try a case. The message is something didn't go the way I expected, and what can I learn from it? What can I do differently next time? And record that. And then when you do show resilience, when you have that setback and you bounce back, acknowledge yourself, reinforce that strength of resilience that you're starting to build, realizing that even though that case went haywire, 2 days later, you're up and running and you've learned lessons from it and you can bounce back and you can recover. Acknowledge how far you've come in developing your skill of resilience. As I see it, there are really 4 stages of developing your resilience, 4 distinct stages. And understanding these stages helps you to recognize your current level and then chart a path towards greater resilience. The first stage, the basic stage, is you just get through it. It's basic endurance. You endure those challenges without being permanently derailed by them. You somehow manage to get through it. The second stage is learning and growing. You adapt from those setbacks. You learn from those challenges, and then you adjust your approach moving forward. The third stage is to turn that setback into a breakthrough. It's truly transformational. You use what happened as a catalyst for fundamental improvement of yourself as an attorney. You reevaluate how you handle matters like that, what your process is, and you enhance your entire approach to your practice. It's a real breakthrough. You've grown and learned from it. And the final stage of resilience is building others up, creating resilience in them, actively cultivating it in colleagues. And I've told this story before, but when I was a very, very young attorney, I had a case against the dean of the bar of a local county near where I worked. It was not my home county. He was highly regarded, experienced, at least 30 years my senior, very skilled, very effective. All the judges loved him. And I kept calling him Mr. And he said to me, Gary, I'm entitled to no more respect from you than you are from me. If I call you Gary, you should call me Hugh. And he taught me a lesson of how to share resilience in others, how to be a model of how to be resilient. There I was, intimidated by who he was, such a great attorney. And he lifted me up and said, we're equals. I'm not better than you. And that was wonderful because it showed me that we each deserve respect, regardless of our experience level. But it truly helped me to understand how to show the skill of resilience with other people. Here's what I've learned after more than 4 decades in this demanding profession. Your resilience is not just about you. Every challenge you weather, every setback you transform into growth, every moment that you choose perspective over panic. You're not just changing your career trajectory. You're becoming the colleague that others turn to. You're becoming the mentor who transforms anxiety into confidence. You are becoming part of the solution to our profession's struggle with burnout and attrition. See, your resilience multiplies. It touches every attorney whose career you will influence, every client that you will serve with greater confidence, and every challenge our profession will face. So next time you face a professional setback, and you will, trust me, remember this: you're not just navigating your challenge. You are developing the resilience that will define your career, to help you to thrive for a long time as a lawyer. And you're also contributing to a legal profession where attorneys do not just endure, they thrive. Your resilience is your legacy. The profession needs what you are building. So start strengthening your resilience today. Thank you for listening to me today. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, please be well, be safe, and be free.